Okay, so for today, we will be taking a look at three key setups, right? And if you guys have any questions or any charts that you want us to take a look at as well, right, do put them under the questions tab. So as always, right, we will go through the economic calendar and then following which we will review our setups. Okay, so let's take a look at the setups, right? So for this, let me just hop onto the economic calendar first, right? So for the economic calendar, you can use either vantagemarkets.com, right? So just go to vantagemarkets.com and there's an economic calendar tool, right? Or you can use Forex Factory. So either one works, right? So right now I'm on Forex Factory. So let me just adjust it to my local time and then also change it here. So you can filter it according to the different impact, right? So the ones with higher impact would be higher and medium impact news. So those will be the ones in red and orange boxes. So let's take a look at what we have here, right? So currently we have Euro, right? So Euro, we have our PMI data coming up. So PMI data coming up for the Eurozone as well as CAD and dollar. So these are the key economic releases for today, right? So if you are trading anything related to these currencies, right, be it Euro dollar, pound dollar, right, dollar CAD, right, these are some things that you want to watch. Okay, so let's take a look at the key setups for today, right? And at the same time, if you guys have any questions, right, do put them under the tab. So just bring up the setups. Okay, so first, I like to take a look at dollar index, right? So in general, you can see that dollar index, if you are going on to the monthly or even the weekly time frame, right, dollar index is currently sitting on this monthly support area. We saw how price reacted as a resistance here, broke above it, and currently it's testing this region. Right? So this is the resistance and support area on dollar index. And if you take a look at, so if we draw a horizontal line across, you can see that prices are testing this zone as well. Right? Like if you go to the weekly time frame on the weekly, right? So let me just remove this now that we have this horizontal line, right? Just understand that this is an area where we saw how price interacted with the zone. So when price comes into this region, right, what we have on dollar index here is, let me just remove this. So you can see that what we have currently, right? So price has been on a downtrend, right? Maybe not so much of the weekly, but the daily, right? You can see on the daily, right? So price has been on a downtrend. This whole leg down has been forming subsequent lower lows and lower highs, right? So if I mark out the lows and highs, and then what we have over here, oops. Right, so what we have currently is that prices broke above the last high. So you can see in terms of structure, price broke above and currently is pulling back within this leg. Okay, so let me just remove the rest. Okay, so currently where we are on the daily time frame, you can see that this is the push up. And what's also interesting is that price broke above. Just draw this horizontal line, right? Did it break above? No, price barely wick above this zone. Okay, so it actually formed equal highs. It didn't break above it, right? So we have equal highs over here. And then right now prices are just pushing lower, right? So this is the picture on the daily, right? Where we have also a few levels that were being highlighted in earlier sessions, right? So this were the levels that we have here, right? So you can see that this was a resistance and support area. Again, right, we saw right now prices are testing this region. We have two other resistance areas that are being highlighted here as well as here. Okay, so this regions, I believe, right, this it's on the 4 hours time frame, and this is highlighted on the 4 hours as well. Okay, so yeah, so there's still resistance area that we have, right? So you can see that this region, right, essentially price came into this region, form a new high, right? You saw price came in, form a new high, and then following which it broke below. So in this case, right, this is the currently what we have here, right? And right now you can see that prices are sitting on a support area over here. And if you take a look at what we have, right, on the left, notice this small candle, right, this candle here, before that strong bullish break above the zone. So if you zoom in, you can see here as well, right? So there's this bearish candle before price breaks above it. So this candle itself, right, basically it shows that you have selling pressure, right? So strong selling pressure here before price broke above. So this region itself is the support area. Okay, so this candle. So if you take the whole candle, you can see that this is the demand area on the 4 hours time frame. So price came into this region, and right now we are seeing a test of this zone. Okay, so this is the picture, right, that we have on the 4 hours time frame. If you go down to the 1 hour time frame, so on the 1 hour, right, let me just remove this because this area, this is a higher time frame zone, right? So just something for us to be aware of, right? So if you're on the 1 hour time frame, we can see that right now, right, prices again, just the most recent moves, you have lower lows and lower highs being formed, and this itself, right, this is the last high that we have, right? Price broke above it. So in terms of the support levels that we can look at on dollar index, right, you can see that this area for me would be the last support region. Okay, so let me put this in a different color, right? So this gray zone, right? So essentially what we have is that you can see price came in, formed new structure, broke above it, right? So as long as it holds above this leg and any pullback within this leg itself, for me, it's still bullish. Okay, so this is the region, right? So what we can do, right? Again, we can try and find if there are any levels that line up with this zone. So for our Fibonacci retracement, right, we want to try and find if identify the lowest point, which is this level here, and the highest point. So the low and the high, right? So you take this move and try and see if there are any levels that line up with this zone. So let's do that and see what it gives us, right? So retracement of this move from low to high. Okay, so you can see that the 78.6, so this is one of the retracement levels, right? So 61.8, 78.6, those are the levels that I look at. You can see that the 78.6 level itself, this level lines up very nicely with this zone. Okay, so this is the area. So with our 78.6 retracement, right, and the next level that we have here, right? So in terms of the resistance, at least on your 1 hour time frame, the most immediate resistance level is this zone, right? Because this is the area where we saw the consolidation. We saw how price consolidated before the big bearish break below here. So this is the resistance area for me, right? So if we do see any test of this level, we could see a pullback coming into the support zone. So this is the most immediate resistance level. Again, right, to check this level, you can again take the highest point, the lowest point, and try and find if there are any retracement levels that line up with this zone. Okay, so let's see what that gives us, right? So when you take a retracement of the move from high to low, you can see that the 78.6 retracement, right? This retracement itself. Okay, so this retracement lines up with this zone. So this is the area. But we can also check, right, it's to check for Fibonacci extension levels. So Fibonacci extension levels are basically zigzag patterns, right? So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to project if there are any big movements here, right? So trying to see if there are any big movements that can line up with this zone. Okay, so that's basically what we're trying to do, right? So for zigzag pattern, right, you can see that this is one. So once we have this, right, what you can also do is to try and find if this zigzag pattern actually lines up with this area, right? So this is the zigzag pattern. So we try and find the turning point and use the turning points to project the extension. So let's do that. So this is 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. So when you open up this key extension levels, you can see that 161.8, right, this actually lines up. This area, it lines up with the zone that we have. Okay, so you can see that dollar index is pushing up very strongly, which means that we will be seeing quite a big movement down, right, for the other setups. So let's see, right? So let's take a look at the rest of the setups, right? So the next setup that I want to show you would be on Aussie dollar. Okay, so you can see on Aussie dollar, right? So how prices have been reacting, right? So price came into a resistance area, but in this case, right, this was also triggered by FOMC. So price came into a resistance area. You can see that pushed up much higher when dollar weakened. This move here, right? And when the Fed decided to raise by 25 basis points, we see this move, right? Dollar weakened, Aussie pushed up quite a bit and currently tested resistance here, right, before it pulls back. So this area, right, you can see that this is the region, right? Right now we're still holding in an ascending channel and we're seeing the pullback of the leg. The previous move itself, if you take a look at structure, right, either on the 1 hour or 4 hours, you can see that just based on structure, price broke above this high, right? And currently it's pulling back into this zone. Support level wise, right, you can see that this is the area where we saw that consolidation. So if I just draw this across, right, you can see that we have this zone. You can see how price reacted, right, as support and resistance. Maybe not so clear in a candlestick chart, but if you put it in close, you can see, right, I can basically draw a horizontal line across, right, and you can see how price reacted as a resistance, broke above as a support, right, and this area, right, the wick as a support, and then this region as well. Okay, so this is the area that price came and tested as a support, right? So right now, we could be seeing a push into this level, right? This area here. Okay, so this is on the 4 hours, right? If we are on the 1 hour, you can see that on the 1 hour time frame, right, where we are at least on the most recent move, right? So this whole pullback leg, you can see that prices are again, right, in terms of structure, it's just forming lower lows and lower highs. Okay, so right now you can see that the high at this area, right, it got swept, price sweeps slightly above this high, but it's not broken. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here. So you can see that prices are currently testing this region. Right, so it's currently testing this area here. Right, the support level. So in this case, right, if you take a look at the 1 hour time frame, you can see that on the 1 hour. So let me just remove these levels that no longer hold, right? So we want to keep our charts clean. So the current levels that we're looking at, right, one would be this 4 hour zone that we've highlighted just now. Okay, this area, this 4 hour zone that we've highlighted here, which is also in line with the ascending channel. That's one. And the other one, right, would be this level. So having come into this zone, right, the other one that we have, right, would be to go down to a 1 hour time frame. You can see on your 1 hour, right, currently prices are holding or testing this resistance area, right? We could see two scenarios, right? One is for price to continue trending lower, given that the 1 hour is still bearish market structure, right? So price could continue pushing lower here, right? And the second option is that price breaks above this region. So if it breaks above this area, it continues to the upside, right? So this is currently the resistance zone, and how we can also find if there are any retracement levels that line up with this resistance zone, right, is to take this move. So again, right, we have this move down, and right now we're experiencing a pullback. Okay, so this is the highest point. This is the lowest point. Right, so let's see what it gives us, right? So if you take a move here, right, so using the Fibonacci retracement of this move from high to low, let's see what that gives us, right? So if you take a retracement of the move from high to low, you can see that the 38.2%, right, this level. So this level over here, right, this lines up with our 38.2 retracement. So we could see a bigger move up, right? Once price breaks above this zone, right, we could see a bigger push up into this area, right? If not, right, price could push deeper and test this support region here. Okay, so one way to watch for this is to wait for this as an upside confirmation, right? So this current level stands at around 0.670. Okay, so this is the zone, right? So this is for Aussie dollar, right? So you can see that when dollar index pushes up, right, we have this candle over here, right? We saw that retracement or that move down. Okay, so that's on Aussie dollar, right? Let's take a look at another setup, which is on Euro dollar. So, right, so you can see that Euro dollar, at least on the higher time frame. Okay, right, so if you're on the higher time frame, let me just go back to the monthly or weekly, so that's easier for us to see. Right, so if you're on the monthly or weekly time frame, you can see that maybe on the weekly, right here, the price came into a resistance area over here, right? And you're seeing that resistance area price came in, tested the zone, and right now it's pulling back into this region. This is the picture on the weekly. Okay, so on the resistance area, right, you can see that this is a support and resistance area here. Right, price came in, tested this is a support, and then failed. And then right now you're seeing a test of this region again. Right, so price came in, tapped into this area. Also the extreme of this candle, if we project it. Right, and then right now it's just pushing lower. So this is currently where what we have, right, for the weekly picture. If you go on to the daily, you can see that on the daily, right, likewise, right, price came in, you can see that it swept the previous move, or it came and pushed slightly into the resistance area, right? This is the picture on the weekly, right? Recall the gray zone that we have, right? And then price came in from a new low, and currently you're seeing a reaction to this candle. Okay, so right now we're seeing a reversal here. This is the pullback, rather, right now a reversal on the daily, right? So we've marked out the support region previously, and I believe we fell on the 1 hour time frame, right? So this was our call on euro dollar on Wednesday. Yeah, on Wednesday, right? So we saw how price tested the support area and then pushed up much higher, also driven by FOMC. So we're bullish on euro dollar on Wednesday. You can see partly driven by the dollar's weakness, right? So price then consolidated slightly. And then what we have after is that it just pushed down much lower. Okay, so this is the picture on the H1, right? So we can see that price reacted off the support area. And right now where we are on the 1 hour, it's that you can see there is some kind of head and shoulders pattern being formed here, right? Before price breaks below it. So the ascending channel is no longer valid, right? This channel is no longer valid here. Okay, so this channel is no longer valid, but we still have the same support area, the one that price reacted to previously, right? This area is still valid. So if price comes into this zone, right, I think we could see a push up into a resistance area. So you want to ask yourself on a 1 hour where the resistance zone is, right? So for me, on a 1 hour at least, right, the most immediate resistance area we have is here. Okay, so this resistance area. So essentially price, if it comes into this zone, right? So this is the 1 hour. So if you're down to, let's say, the 15 minutes or even the 5 minutes, right? We don't really see much here, just very strong bearish move down. But you can see that this area, right, with this huge move down itself, right, it'll consolidate, right? If it does respect the support area, it should consolidate before we see a move up. Okay, so if I go back to the 4 hours, even a 1 hour time frame, right, you can see where we are right now. Price came into this area, the support region. Okay, and we have a resistance zone here. So again, you want to try and find if there are any resistance areas that line up here. So this is the move down. So this is the high. And this is the low. So if you're to use a Fibonacci retracement on this, right, basically taking the highs and lows, you can see that this is the move, right? So if you take a Fibonacci retracement on this, high and low here. So we're trying to find if there are any resistance zones that line up with this area. Okay, that line up with this blue zone. So you can see that in this case, right, the 61.8 retracement will be the one that lines up with the resistance area. That's one, right? And then the other one would be this area here. Right, so having identified that, now we want to find our zigzag moves. Right, so basically trying to find if there are any zigzag pattern. And this is the zigzag pattern, and you can see that we're trying to find if there are any zigzag patterns that line up with this region. Okay, so this are the 3 points that we want to use for our turning points. So point 1, point 2, and point 3. Right, so when we project that, point 1, point 2, and point 3. Okay, I have 121.272, right? So this is the extension level, right? So when price comes into this zone, right, this is your extension level here. So this is on the 1 hour time frame, right? So currently we're just seeing if there are any consolidation, right? And if price comes into this region, right, then this is an area we want to watch. Okay, so if we're on the 15 minutes, right, pretty much the same thing. So right now you see that prices are approaching the support area. So if it comes into this zone, right, this is an area that we want to watch, especially to see if to watch how price consolidates. Okay. Okay, so this is on euro dollar, right? Let's take a look at another setup, which is on gold. So gold has been on a pretty wild move, right? So if you take a look at what we have here on gold, right? So again, on the higher time frame first, if we are on the higher time frame, the weekly or even the monthly. So you can see that gold on the higher time frame, right? This is the monthly time frame. It's sitting on some kind of resistance area, right? So we saw how price tested this region as a resistance 3 times. You can see here, right? 1, 2, and 3. So price testing this resistance area. And then if you're down onto the weekly time frame, you can see that price came into this region, right? And it came into this weekly resistance here. And price swept slightly above this. This is on the weekly, right? And if you're on the daily, just remove this. Right, so if you go on to the daily time frame, you can see the price sweeps slightly above it, and currently it's just testing this resistance area. Right, so nothing much on the daily that we can see here. And then if you're on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that prices still continue to form higher lows and higher highs, right? So if you mark out the structure, this is the last low, right? And prices are just pushing higher. So the idea behind this is that if price comes into a resistance area, right, like this example, you can see that this case, there's hardly any reaction, right? So maybe let me just bring your attention onto this area first, right? Just focus on this area. So previously we identified this as a resistance, but you can see that if you go on to 15 minutes or even the 5 minutes, you can see that even coming into this zone, right, there was never a change in structure. Price just continues to form higher low, higher high, and it continues to break above. Okay, so this is the picture, right, on gold, right? So as usual, right, if we see price coming into a 4 hours resistance area, so in this case, it'll be this wick here, right? So it's facing some kind of resistance, right? Or if you're looking at just support resistance level, you can see that previously price came in, we saw that rejection, right? And then this is one area to watch, even though this for me is not a strong level, because if prices are in an uptrend, right, it's forming bullish market structure, then in this case, right, this is the area that we want to watch, but we don't want to take any immediate trades off this level unless on your smaller time frame, you can see that resistance areas are starting to hold. Okay, so that's the idea, right? So in this case, what we have here, right? So price coming into a resistance area. And once we are here, right, you can see that on the H1 time frame, you can see this region, right? So we're seeing some kind of reaction of this candle. Put this in a different color, right? So we're seeing a reaction of this H1 resistance area. Prices continue to push lower. But as I've mentioned, right now, where we are, at least on the 1 hour, is still bullish. So here, right, on the 1 hour, the next question you want to ask yourself is, where's the support resistance area that we can see on the 1 hour, right? So if you're on the 1 hour time frame, let me just remove all this retracement levels, right, because they are no longer valid. So on the 1 hour, you can see that this is still the same zone, right? This zone that holds previously as the H4 resistance. We saw how price interacted with this area, right? So for me, this on the 1 hour, it's the support area, right? Price could push deeper into this zone before it continues to the upside. So this is the area. Okay, so for support level, this is the level to watch, right? So this stands at around 1974. Okay, what you can also do is to check, right? So this is the move up and the pullback, right? So you try and find if there are any retracement levels, low to high, right? So this is the lowest point, this is the highest point. So try and find the retracement levels from low to high and see if there are any retracement levels that line up with the zone. So you can see the 50% retracement here, right? And then the next thing that we want to check, right, it's Fibonacci extension. So basically zigzag patterns. We try and find if there are any zigzag patterns that line up with this area. right? So your zigzag pattern, essentially. You can see there isn't any clear ones, right? The clearest one is this, but it probably doesn't give us anything. Okay, so I'll still try and project it and see what we have. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Right, so very rarely we use the 1.618. So in this example, right, this is probably a line of the 1.618. Okay, so for me, gold, it's still bullish, right? I think we could see a pullback into this zone. And then if we do see a pullback into this zone here, right, we can target the last high. That's bank for. Okay, so this is the view for me on gold. Okay, so this is what we have, right? And yeah, so these are the setups, right? So for gold, we're expecting a push down, right? Possibly into the support area here before continuing its upside. That's on gold, right? If you take a look at Aussie dollar, right? Aussie dollar, we're waiting for a break above this high, right? If price continues higher, right? This is the region that we want to watch. And if you're on euro dollar, right? Euro dollar currently is testing in this, coming into the support region as well, right? So we could see a move up here, but again, right, this area, because it has been tested before. So if price does come into this region, right, you want to either go to your 15 minutes or 5 minutes to wait for a lower time frame change in structure. Right now, it's still just continuing on to its lower lows and lower highs. Okay, so I hope that this is clear so far, right? And if you guys have any questions or any charts that you want us to take a look at, right, do put them under the questions tab. Okay, so I'll just leave it here for about a few more minutes, right? And at the same time, right, so some of you guys were asking for the recordings. So if you guys want to take a look at the recordings, right, you can just go to vantagemarkets.com/webinars, right? Or there's a link to its YouTube page. So you can just hop onto there, right? And that should show the recordings. Okay, so we do have all the sessions that are being recorded, so you can reference them. Okay, so if you guys have any charts that you want us to take a look at, right, do put them under the questions tab. Okay, if there are no other questions, right, so that's all we have for today. Right, so thanks everyone for staying with us as always till the end, right? Have a great weekend, and we will catch you guys again next week.